Welcome to the Faith and Life podcast. My name is Mike Weaver, pastor at St. Luke, and this is
Greg Osborne.
Greg. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good day
complain.
today?
Yeah, it's good weather.
Right.
What are you going to beat? You can't beat it.
Beautiful fall weather.
Love it.
I'll take it. So here's the question before we jump into our topic today.
Okay.
What is one word that would describe you in the morning?
What is one word that would describe me in the morning?
Yes.
Tired.
Really?
I am not a morning person at all. I struggle getting up. I go to bed too late. I read, I watch shows. I can't get up in the morning.
So it's a slower, groggy morning for you.
Yeah.
Tired.
Yeah, Stacy is the champion, kind of gets the kids all ready for school, and then I just show up downstairs and take them.
Yeah. That's partnership right there.
It is.
That's partnership.
It is.
I think for me it would be alive.
Oh, okay.
I like the mornings.
Really?
I like getting up and getting going.
Have you always liked the mornings, though?
Yeah.
Okay, I was just wondering,
Yeah.
I didn't know, if there was going to be a switch, when I get a little older, there's I like them. I'm not saying you're old, but
I am old, and I still like the mornings.
that's I just wanted to make, was it when you were younger? Were you still like that? But okay.
Here's what I've learned as I've gotten older. I've been getting up earlier.
Earlier.
Yeah. So
I don't like the
sleep
sounds
as
of that.
Yeah. Comes with age, I think. I don't know. Maybe it's me. I just don't sleep as much as I used to.
Okay.
And there is a bit of me, I've thought this for many, many, many years, why are we still laying in bed? Let's go. Life's happening. We need to get this day going. Why are we still sitting around? That's me.
Oh man, no, I think it's because we have kids and and they're so they wake us up so early that if there's a day we can just sleep in bed, I was oh thank goodness, I'll lay here as long as and then the kids come and
Yeah. Yep.
You ruined it again.
Yep. All right, the topic for today: hope in the times of uncertainty. In times of uncertainty, not of. So there's uncertainty in any time,
Right.
in life, right? So where do we find hope? How do we have hope in the times of uncertainty?
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts initially on that topic?
There's so much uncertainty can be big uncertainty and it can be small uncertainty too. I think uncertain of what's going to happen, on a Sunday morning and what's going to happen there, or it can be big things, right? And so for me, I think with anything it really is being grounded in my faith and my relationship with Jesus because if you go even on the deeper side of the uncertainty, if I don't have something bigger than myself to cling to, there's not a lot of hope in there for me. And that's the initial thought that comes to my mind as I'm unpacking this, before I can go too deep. When you first hear that, what do you hear?
I hear one, life is always uncertain.
Yeah.
Right? The future is always yet to be discovered and written. Mm-hmm. Right? So there's uncertainty, to your point, big and small, but I think it's constantly there. I think the profoundness of the uncertainty that we feel is when those routines and those systems that we depend upon, which make it feel like it's certain, when those things sort of be taken away or they become ripped away, unfortunately sometimes, then it becomes even more uncertain because the stuff that we've depended on are not there. Yeah. So that's what makes it, I think that's where it makes it even harder when those normal supports are now gone. And then it becomes even more uncertain, and then we're just searching for certainty. Hope in the midst of uncertainty provides a handlehold in it. It provides some certainty in the uncertainty, but also starts saying, hope then says, while the future is uncertain, it's not without content. the future has content within it. It's just now grasping toward it. I don't know how I'm thinking through this as I'm talking,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
that's my
that's
thought.
what we do. Well, it's funny because right, like you can have so much stuff set up in your life where you're like, I know this is going to happen, right? Like,
Yeah.
and it can be the most simple task. For example, today for lunch, I was going to go to Captain D's. You guys ever been to Captain D's?
Oh man, if I have, it's been so
It's been a long time. They have, I'm just telling you, every once in a while I go because they have a spicy fish. And it's like, chef's kiss. Like,
No, wait, is this Captain D's or Captain?
Captain
Not
D's.
Captain Crunch.
No, like Captain D's,
Okay.
like the seafood. Like,
Yeah, I know. I didn't know it was Captain.
is it not Captain?
I think it is Captain.
I don't know.
You're right.
Anyways.
But they've got this guy with this fish sandwich.
Yeah, I was going to get the spicy fish. I was like, that sounds good. I haven't had it for a while. I'm going to go. Pull up to the drive-thru, order the spicy fish. Sorry, sir, we no longer carry that.
What?
What? Uncertainty, right? Like, I was certain this was going to happen. And it was just so. And like, so I say that in this, it's a silly context of a thing, but it looks at this whole concept of our life that no matter what you do, whatever you were talking about, putting things in place to make sure that things feel, that they'll feel certain. And I think for me, the only thing that can be like a life raft in the midst of the uncertainty is my faith and the practices I put to strengthen that faith as well, right? Because I think you can always say like, oh, I have faith in the Lord, I have hope in the Lord. But if we're not feeding that hope and, that relationship with the Lord, it's, maybe our dinghy's not going to be as supportive as it could be, right? Like the life, when we need that lifeboat and stuff like that. So for me, it's putting in systems that are going to strengthen my faith, going to strengthen my walk. So when uncertain times come, when tougher times come, when there looks like we are in a hopeless situation, that I can find hope in the midst of that. And
Yeah. So it's like constantly going back to the promises of God. What does God say about the past, present, and future? And God has a lot to say about the future. And God about our personal lives, but also globally, and so on. That's the constant practice of staying close to our Lord so that when those times come up, I built the spiritual muscle to handle the heavy lifting of these hopeless times.
Well, and you mentioned past, present, and future, all these times that, of honing into on all the promises throughout the Bible that God has kept. Mm-hmm. And like, where you're like, I don't know, like you can look in scripture time and time again where things have been like God says this is going to happen and it happens. And so like to have that faith and that like to know like, okay, I've seen it happen because I've read it, and I've seen him show up in my life in the real time too. And so like they'll always go back to those as well, like, and understand that God is who he says he is. And, and to cling to those I think is important.
Yeah. So biblical hope is linked to God's promises always and God's promised presence. So that shows up also in the Lutheran Church, and as it was in our system of the sacraments, baptism and the Lord's Supper, where we can be certain in the midst of uncertainty that Christ is there. He's also in his word. Christ shows up in the scriptures to us, also in the bread and wine. He says, that's my body, this is my blood. We can be certain of that. And we can be certain that baptism is a gift given to us by God himself that will be forever. So here's where the rubber's the road with that. So a former bishop at the ELCA decades ago, one of their children was estranged from them. And they lost track of him. As an adult, they had no connection with him. And I think there were substance abuse issues in there and some mental health issues and some things that were causing some difficulties in this young person's life. This bishop in a public forum, talked about this story, and he said, my wife and I were torn apart by this. This is our child, and the certainty when your kids are small and when they're teenagers, you think they're just always going to be there. We're always going to have this family. And then next thing you know, this person becomes an adult and they're just off doing their thing, and that's in a bad way. And they didn't know if he was alive or dead, their child.
Wow.
And so it was really difficult, he said, for he and his wife and his family. He said, so in the midst of the uncertainty in those times, the certainty they clung to and the hope they had was they kept coming back to, but he's baptized. That the Lord is in his life, whether he acknowledges it or not. God has claimed him as a child. The victory over sin, death, and the devil for eternity for their child is certain. Him wrestling with sin, death, and the devil in this earthly life, that's still constant for all of us and for him. But the hope to say that God is with this child, even though they don't even know where he's at, that's all they had. And he said, and in some ways, it wasn't enough, but it was something to hold on to in the midst of the uncertainty of where their child was. And I thought, I've never forgotten that story because I think it's a really powerful illustration of what hope can do for us, hope rooted in certainties of God's promises to us.
Well, and it reminds me of like at least the first half of The Prodigal Son.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of the idea that there is hope in the midst of that, no matter what we go through in life, that God will always be there for us and welcome us with open arms. Right? No matter what we're dealing with and the uncertainty of our life and, the sin and stuff that we still struggle with and deal with on a daily basis, that God is still there, like welcoming, ready to take us home. Like, hey, I got you. You're mine. I claimed you.
Yeah.
And I think that is hope in the midst of uncertainty for me.
Yeah. So what is the difference between false optimism and biblical hope? And maybe even optimism itself and biblical hope, do you think? As you're thinking about this, I've thought about that question. Like, if I say I'm optimistic about the future?
Yeah.
In other words, I have a positive outlook of how things could turn out. I'm optimistic.
Yeah.
Or I might be cautiously optimistic. I'm hedging like my bets a little bit, but I'm certain that things are going to turn out pretty well. Mm-hmm. But there might be a lot of factors and evidences that tell me why I need to be optimistic based on the economy or my own skill level or this group or whatever it is. So I'm putting things together to cause my optimism to be higher or lower. Hope, I think, to me doesn't have a higher or lower. Hope is hope. And hope is not based on my ability to make something happen. It's based on God's ability to create something new. I don't know, that's my thought, but what are your thoughts?
I mean, this is an interesting question because you're talking to someone who probably, to my wife's extent, is frustratingly optimistic. Very much like, there's stresses or something in our house. I'm like, I catch myself because I have to be cautious sometimes. I'm like, that'll work out. Like, my mindset 9 times out of 10 is like, it'll work out. Like, I don't know how. And it shouldn't. But my mindset is like, it'll work out. I don't know if that's years of growing up being a Bengals fan. I'm like, yeah, sure. It'll be good. It'll work out. It doesn't. But
yeah. I
think for me, it's always I think there's wisdom in the optimism, right? Because you have to be cautious too. Like, if you're like, oh, I think this is going to happen, and then you continue to do stuff to derail what you would consider happen. Well, that's just. But I think for me, it's just like there are things that I can control, and if I can control those things, cool. But there's a lot of stuff out there in the world that I can't, and I'm just like, you know what? My mindset is, even if something bad, like we can make it through it. Like I've gone through some stuff where I was like, hey, and I think for me it goes back to those, we talk about God's promises, but I think for me of like, I've had some rough situations happen in my life and I've looked back and say, that time stunk. Like it was tough, but I made it through that. I'm here. So why can't I make it through this situation? And so for me, maybe in the midst of things, it's harder to look like at that, but like every time I look back at like life, I'm like, okay, God's pulled me through this. It may not still been the outcome that I wanted to have happen, but I've learned, I've grown, and I've moved, and I'm able to take steps forward in that. And so for me, I think the look at what's happened in the past and to be able to say, okay, God's been able to utilize that for me in my life, that he'll take care of this, right? Like it's that Bible verse of like, where it's like, he takes care of the birds and surely he'll take care, like those, like there's that mindset for me. And like, so again, I understand it can be super frustrating to people when it's like, yeah, but that's just, it's very much my outlook has been like, okay, look for the best. I think it's the best in life, the best in people, because I think the other side of it is, if you're always looking at the negative outcomes or worried about the negative outcomes, I think the chances are we only start to see those as well. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a balance of, if you're looking for the positive, you'll see the positive. And if you're looking, we've talked about this all the time. You go online, if you're looking for negative things about I wonder what they're going to say about this, you're going to find negative stuff. But if you can look, and if you find positive, you're going to find positive. So I think it is an outlook for me a lot too of, maybe people call it blind optimism, but that's a long-winded answer.
I think you're right. I think hope and optimism are two sides of the same coin. Yeah. They're not opposites. They are distinct, and yet there's similarities between the two. There's two sides of the same coin. Just like false hope and false optimism are two sides of the same coin. But they are distinct and different, optimism and hope. And as you described, and you did a nice job with, I think, the past experience in informing how to be optimistic about the future, but also be hopeful based on maybe experience with God through that past experiences. God's going to show up again because God's promises said he takes care of this, and therefore God's going to take care of us as well. And so.
But on the other side of that coin then, like if you've seen situations where this has happened in the past time and time again, to think of it's going to happen as a different outcome. Right. It's going to be like, I think those were Henry Cloud's book, Boundaries, talks about that, right? If someone in your life has shown you that this is who they are time and time again, that's a false optimism to think that they are going to change in this situation and stuff like that. So I think you have to have that balance of, of understanding, but looking at the past is helpful for that.
Yeah. I think we also are at a time in the world's history of increasing might not be the right word, but there's hopelessness. Mm-hmm. There's nihilism, like nothing's going to get better. The climate's not going to get better. The wars are not going to get solved. We're going to have crisis after crisis after crisis, and we're on a downward slide toward the end. There is a stream within media, within society, within what we watch that says things are just going to be that. And I think like there's increasing darkness, not spiritual darkness, but like metaphorical darkness. It's just getting darker and darker and darker. But hope says, no, there's light, there's brightness, there's a sunrise, there's a new day dawning, and there's new possibilities emerging. There are new solutions yet to be discovered. That's both optimistic and hopeful because God's still at work in the world. That's the hopeful sense. God's still at work. God's still doing great things. The kingdom still is coming into the world through us to create new things, to solve human problems. And so there's a constant battle, I think, within human societies that feels even more today.
Yeah. And I get that. I hear that. I see that a lot. I guess I'm a little unexposed to that as much. because I work with students, and I think I see so much hope in them, of their future, their whatever they want to do, like the world is in front of them, and a lot of the students I work with, I see that in them still. Like there is still that hope. Yeah, there's always going to be the negative aspect, but I think there's this hope of I can do something, I can make a change, and like I can whatever it is. And so for me, I see young people and get to work with them and kind of see them processing, figuring out their faith, and like from like our conversations at catechism the other night, like some of their responses, I'm like, oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, like we're in good hands then. Like,
Yeah.
if this is the future of our generation, like, so to me, I'm like, I guess I'd say is if you don't have hope in your life, surround yourselves with kids that go to youth group.
Right, exactly. But I heard the last 6 months a speaker and a Christian thought leader say this around hope. He said, having a child is a hopeful act.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because why? If it's not hopeful, why would you want to bring someone into
Exactly.
this world? If you have the mindset that the world is awful, God-forsaken place, that there's no hope in it, why would you bring something into that?
Exactly.
So like that's hope.
It is. It's
Every
saying,
birth, there should be
every
hope.
birth is a hopeful act to say things can get better. Or I'm trusting that things will get better.
It almost circles back to your beginning question of your response was alive. Every day that we're alive is a day of hope. Like, hey, I'm here, I'm awake, I'm alive. Stuff can happen.
Yeah, and I think what happens is that our agency within the hopeful future is that God has put inside every single one of us the ability to create, the ability to make positive intentions, to make positive choices, to create relationships that are healthy and life-giving. All those things are built in us, and in Christ, the Holy Spirit activates that even deeper in greater ways because the fruits of Spirit's at work. And that's all creating a hopeful future for us and for those we love and those we don't know yet. Because if I don't do anything, then I'm thinking I don't have any agency to change anything, right? I become a victim. And then the world's not going to do anything except that what I see, all the terrible things happening, those terrible things are not asking for permission to happen. They're just going to happen.
It's a parable of if you do that, you're hiding your talent in the box and burying it, and you're not doing anything with it, trying to make a difference.
I'm just going to hang around and bury it.
Yeah.
And because, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Of whatever. Yeah. The last word, is this word from Jeremiah. We give it to college students or graduates, but I think it's a word not for graduates only, but it's a word for all of us. From Jeremiah, I know the plans I have for you, God says, to give you hope and a future. It's a beautiful sentiment and a word to cling to, that God is like, I'm not done. I'm giving you a hope and a future. It's both things happening at the same time. Good stuff. Thanks for the conversation. Thanks for watching, listening. We look forward to joining together again.